Hey guys, Josh here. I just played Sunhaven for the Nintendo Switch and we gotta talk about it. After years of waiting, it finally launched this November 29th on the Nintendo eShop for the Americas and Asia. As for Europe and Australia, it should release on December 16th. I played it for about 2 hours and a half to get a feel for it. I have over 100 hours on PC, so I know the game well. It is a very fun game, but I want to walk you through my experience with the Switch version, so you know what you're getting into if you're interested in that one specifically. I won't be talking too much about the gameplay or the game in general in this video. Instead, I will be focusing on what stood out to me the most while playing it on the Switch. First, it's a bit more expensive. On Steam, the regular price is $25 US or 32.50 Canadian. Plus, right now it's 40% off, while on the Nintendo eShop it's $30 US, 40 Canadian. So I spent $40 on it, and interestingly, I don't think they sent any review keys to content creators. I tried reaching out, but I could not get one. I don't mind paying for the game, that is not the problem as much as I would like a refund. But it is quite unusual that no review keys are being sent, and to me this comes off as a red flag, as if the developers were not feeling confident in their product and didn't want people to talk about it. But I am here to talk about it, so let's see what's going on with Sunhaven on the Nintendo Switch. I start the game, leave a like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all of these farming sims. And speaking of up to date or not up to date, this new port of Sunhaven is on version 1.5.8 right now. So let's have a look at this announcement from November 15th announcing the Switch release. It clearly claims that there are zero content differences between the two platforms, and in the FAQ section to the question, will the Switch version have the same content as the Steam version, they respond, the Nintendo Switch release of Sunhaven will match what is available right now on Steam at launch. Right now meaning November 15th, more than 2 weeks after the major 1.7 update released. Maybe 1.7 is coming to the Switch soon. I can totally understand a delay with updating the console version as it has to go through some extra steps. I think that's fine, but it is a lie to say that they will have the same content at launch. That is simply not the case. The 30-something DLCs are missing as well, which is worth noting if you are interested in spending over $100 on this game. There is also no multiplayer, which I think is one of the best features of Sunhaven, but the developers say that they will be looking into it and add it depending on how difficult it ends up being. I can already imagine that it will be very difficult. The game is still a ton of fun in single player, however, so I'm excited to start a new save file. My excitement quickly fades when I see this minuscule character creation menu. It freezes like this for a bit, but then it fully opens up. I'm relieved and keep going. The menu, this character creation menu specifically, is pretty easy to navigate with a controller. The cursor locks itself to each option, so it's not a free cursor that goes everywhere on the screen, if that makes sense. And the only issue I'm noticing is how if you change the hair colors too quickly, the hairstyles will take some time to load. Other than that, things are going well, and I quickly make my demon character, which in hindsight was probably not the best idea because from here on out, the game is cursed. There's a loading screen, a 28-second loading screen. I will put a comparison with the PC version so you can see the difference. Of course, that will vary based on your PC, but the same loading screen took less than 3 seconds for me. We're now on the train to Sunhaven, and you may notice that the text box is taking almost half of the screen here. It looks a bit jarring like this, but it does make it easier to read if you're playing in handheld. And there is a setting to change the scale of the UI, which I think is a great detail. If you happen to touch the left stick during a dialogue, a cursor pops up in the middle of that text box. You can't move it or do anything with it. It's meant for when you have dialogue options to choose from, but you can have it there at any time. It's a very small thing, but it looks messy. So I go through the intro cutscene, I'm about to be shown my farm, and I hear this terrifying sound. Crash number 1. Fortunately, it autosaved. Loading does not take 28 seconds this time, it takes 45. Plus, there's another 25 seconds when I can see my farm, but I can't move or do anything. I'm not sure if the game is frozen, and then eventually everything's fine. I want to try changing the scale of the UI just because I'm curious. So I go in the settings menu and I'm going to do my best to explain this. So in the settings section, there are 3 tabs: gameplay, display, and audio. The UI scale is in display, so I click on display. And as you can see, there's a bar for UI scale, a bar for zoom level, and a little checkbox to disable shadows. My cursor is on display right now. I go down, but instead of going to the scale bar, it goes straight to disable shadows. In order to select any of the 2 bars above, I need to either go right from disable shadows or go back up to display, right to audio, and then go down from there. It is so messy, you can easily tell that this menu was not designed to be navigated with a controller. They did not do much to change it. It is not the worst thing in the world, just a bit frustrating. And it gets worse when I click on Save and Exit by accident, which is at the bottom of the settings menu. I reload my save file, wait for a little bit, and now it's time to farm. Tools can be used by pressing X. There is a little square cursor showing where you're aiming, and you can also use the right stick, which aims and uses a tool at the same time. It's working well for the most part. It's not perfect. Like here, for example, I keep selecting this huge rock that's over 4 tiles away instead of the one that's right in front of me, but I think it's nothing someone could not get used to. And if you've played this game on Steam Deck or on PC with a controller, it's probably a similar thing. In terms of performance, the game on Switch is capped at 30 frames per second. I don't think it matters too much for a pixel art farming sim, but I am noticing it's just not running as smoothly as on my PC, especially whenever the camera has to zoom in on something during a cutscene. Those zooms are really struggling. During regular gameplay though, it is running fine for the most part, but you can tell it's not perfectly optimized, and I am worried as to how it will perform when you have a lot of animals, machines, and decorations on your farm. I know it's not fair to compare performance on a gaming PC to a Switch, but for a pixel art game like this one that is not necessarily demanding graphically, I was expecting much better. After getting set up on my farm, it's now time for me to learn about combat, and here's a problem that is not exclusive to Sunhaven, that a lot of PC games that are being ported to consoles suffer from. The toolbar has not been changed in any way. Being able to select 10 items from a bar at any time is so quick and convenient with a mouse and keyboard, but with a controller it's far from the best. Especially in a game like Sunhaven that has a lot of combat and RPG elements. Like in the mines, you often have to quickly switch between your weapon and your pickaxe. Sometimes you'll want to eat food in the middle of a battle, but you can't do that very efficiently with a controller. I wish you could, for example, press ZL or ZR. Neither of these are being used as far as I know, and they could maybe open a wheel like in Roots of Pacha, and then from there you would be able to quickly change between tools, and you could also maybe set 1 or 2 shortcuts for food and potions. This is not necessary for slower paced farming sim, but if you're gonna have a lot of combat, I think it's essential. Yes, it is more work for the developers, but they are asking us to pay more for the Switch version, so it's not unreasonable to also expect a bit more. After my combat training, I obtained this combat skill tome. I open my inventory, select it, and it says to press B to gain 1 combat skill point. I press B, nothing happens. I close my inventory, press B again, nothing happens. Oh, but if you look at my toolbar here, there is an X in the corner, so is it B or X? I press X, still nothing. I try holding X, holding B, nothing. Y, A, L, R, nothing. After a few minutes of scrambling and pressing all of the buttons, I find out that the way to do it is to have the inventory open, selecting the item and then pressing X. So why was the item description telling me to press B? Why does my bag have to be open? These might be small oversights, but there are a lot of small oversights. Also, why does every single item in my toolbar have an icon for the X button? These stones, for example, nothing's gonna happen no matter how many times I press X on them, so I have no idea why that's here, and I feel like this prompt should only appear on tools or items that can be consumed. A bit later, I try fighting some real monsters, and it's again a bit of a mess because when I'm throwing fireballs, a good portion of the aiming is automatic, but if I want more control over the direction, like to hit a specific monster, I need to use the right stick. That is a problem because the right stick also uses whichever tool I have equipped. So obviously during combat I'm gonna have my sword, so now I'm swinging my sword, I'm trying to aim and it's interrupting my movement, and it just makes the whole combat quite clunky. I might get used to all of that over time, but the controls are not the best. I should also say that for the menus, you can use the touchscreen. It is not the most precise, but it works and it can be a better way to navigate some of the menus if you're playing in handheld. Now I have to talk to this cat girl called Kitty for a quest, and if you've only been listening to this video in the background, you have to watch this. I promise it's worth it. I go towards the area where Kitty lives. There's always a 3 seconds or so loading screen between each area. I get so scared every time that the game's going to crash, but it doesn't crash. That's typically a good thing, right? But I feel like the game might have been better off with a crash here. Some of the assets, I think we have Kitty's barn or shed or something, are now oversized, occupying most of the screen. There are some tiny buildings on top here and there. Some of the terrain textures like the grass and water are missing, but not all of them, and it's this huge mess that you wouldn't believe if I didn't record it. I was so looking forward to saying hello Kitty, but I can't. She's still sleeping in her house, So I try to make my way out of this area, which is easier said than done. I cannot see where I'm going, there are invisible walls and obstacles everywhere. I do eventually find the exit, and then the game decides it's time for a little crash. I get it, we all need a little crash from time to time. I'm used to have a game crash if I'm playing like 3, 5, 10 hours in a row. It happens, but here crashes are every 45 minutes. I think most of us would have been perfectly fine waiting a few more weeks or months if it meant that this was fixed, and I'm sure they will probably fix it. But for now, we have a game that constantly crashes, and I feel so bad for the Kickstarter backers specifically who have paid for the Switch version of this game over 4 years ago. I boot up the game again, long loading screen again, it autosaved the night before so I don't lose too much progress, but considering the frequency of the crashes, 10 minutes of catching up every 45 minutes really adds up. As I'm catching up, I explore the town, I do some quests, and I notice that before characters spawn, they sometimes have this white rectangle that lasts for a few milliseconds. It's extremely quick, but it is distracting and it doesn't do that on PC. Things go smoothly for an hour or so, and then I have to talk to Lucia so she can introduce me to Helios, the guardian of Sun Haven. But he's guarding a bit too hard and the game crashes before I can meet him. I boot up the game, loading screen, I catch up, you know the drill. I do manage to meet Helios, then he gives me this teleport spell. There are shortcuts for spells, the arrows are so small it is hard to tell, but you can link a spell to each direction of the D-pad. I'm running into a little problem here, it's going to be hard to put into words, you gotta feel it to truly understand it, but as I try to assign the teleport spell to an arrow, the cursor becomes all wonky, it doesn't let me go anywhere near the teleport spell. If I try to pick another spell like the fireball, it goes in the corner of the spell icon, but it's not actually letting me select it. It's very weird, but then I press on the D-pad again, it resets and it works. The spell costs 100 mana to use, I only have 20. I'm not gonna teleport anywhere, but I can do even better and quit the game. This is a painful video to make because I do love Sun Haven. I played it a ton on PC. I will continue playing it there, and yes, I do have some criticisms. It feels bloated in certain aspects. They are adding too many towns, crafting stations, currencies, characters, and there is this feeling that quantity is taking over quality every time they update the game. But I do enjoy the gameplay loop, the mines, leveling up my characters, the skill trees, the RPG elements. It's not perfect, but it's a charming game that becomes even better when playing with friends. Sadly, the Switch version does not do it justice. It's more expensive, it's behind in terms of content, which I wouldn't mind if the developers were not lying about it. There are visual glitches, loading screens are long, controls and menus are a bit clunky, and it crashes all the time. These are all things that can be fixed. Who knows, maybe when it releases for Europe on December 16th, everything I said in this video will be outdated. And I would love for that to be the case, but I don't know if that's realistic. And I just don't like that they're selling a game in this state. I know they're a fairly small studio, but so many of their decisions leading up to here made me lose my trust in them. The 30 different DLCs, them continuously adding extra content during early access before addressing the players who were asking for controller support and other more important things, then releasing a very disappointing spin-off game, Sundown, before even finishing the 1.0 of Sun Haven. Also, there are apparently no credits in the game despite the community regularly asking to see who worked on the game. Obviously, these developers want to be credited. It seems like there's really a lot going on in this studio, and now we have this badly optimized Switch port that has less content and a higher price tag. So if you've been waiting for Sun Haven for so long, and the Nintendo Switch is your only option, you can play it there, but I would strongly recommend waiting to see if they release patches first and how the reviews are maybe a few weeks or months from now. If you are able to get it on PC, that is the absolute best way to experience this game. And for me personally, I will continue playing it on PC. I have no intention of going back to it on the Switch, even though I already paid for it. And I love the idea of being able to play Sun Haven on that console. Let me know what you think. Do you like Sun Haven? Have you played it or not? Will you try the Switch port? Share your thoughts in the comments, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.